So want to welcome everybody. Got my partner in crime here on the Crisis in Confidence or Confidence in Crisis webinar series. Drew, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I've been getting a lot of flack over my hairstyle, but I've landed the lead role in a reprise, I guess, of 1984's movie Youngblood.
Youngblood, I remember that.
Semi-pro hockey league.
Yep.
The mullet.
Why don't you, can you turn around and let everybody see the back of your hair there? You guys see? He's got it flowing.
Nice. Strong.
And he's trying to grow a beard. I'm not sure really what that is.
I was going to work out today at lunch and shave after that.
Yeah, definitely looking at Youngblood. Well, we've got an action-packed agenda tonight. I appreciate the positive feedback that I've gotten from some people when we put the agenda together. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to bring on our first guest, which I'm really excited about. Michael Shaw, he's a fellow bourbon lover up there in the great state of Minnesota. Michael, glad to have you on our show tonight and talk a little bit about some cooking class that you put together virtually that you got some clients and prospects going. So where did this idea come from, Mike?
Yeah, thanks, Travis. Actually it came from a couple glasses of wine and actually working with Katie. She had sent, I had worked with Katie and we had put together a pretty robust marketing plan for 2020. And of course that got blown up a little bit with what's going on. So she had sent me some different ideas that she had gotten from wholesalers. And of course I didn't look at it at the time. I took it home. Yeah, on a Friday night and over a couple glasses of wine, I pulled it back out and just kind of flipping through it. It's kind of like, oh, cooking class. Gee, we know a chef that's not doing anything right now. We could pull this off. And literally that was one Friday night, and we did it the following Friday night.
Okay. So wine-inspired event. There's one lesson and takeaway there. But yeah, Katie Rotz on our marketing team has been working with you, getting your marketing plan together, pass on some ideas. So already when I was preempting this whole time together, people were asking, well, how do you do this? And so, Mike, why don't you walk us through the logistics? Because I think that's where advisors, they see this as a wonderful idea, but they're scratching their head going, what's the logistics? How do I make this work?
Yeah, so, so I say a couple of things. One is we try to keep it really simple. We try to keep it, just us. We didn't try and make it too slick or too professional. We thought our clients and prospects would appreciate that. We tried all sorts of different technology. I mean, I tried running stuff through a GoPro, through a Canon camera, all sorts of stuff. And then we settled down on kind of the simplest thing, which is we ran it with two iPhones. We used one iPhone for video and we used one iPhone for audio. And, it was pretty simple. We did a little bit more. We used a big screen that we had so that the chef and myself could actually see what was going on, what was coming through for the audience, so that made it a little bit easier. And then we started using the texting feature about a month ago, and because of, WebEx is pretty limited. It's not really set up well to do video, but I think we pulled it off okay, and I didn't want to try and take questions live with a bunch of people on there, so we use the texting program to elicit questions and so forth. Yeah.
So let me make sure I understand the setup here. So you've got the chef.
Yep.
Are they at your home or were you at?
It was actually at our home, yeah.
Okay, and so you had you and your wife there, one with iPhone running the video, one with the other iPhone running the audio.
Yep, simple as that.
Okay, and you used the WebEx platform. Now, how many people did you have on the WebEx when you did this event?
Yeah, we had, so I think in total logins, it was somewhere around 25 or so. So probably about 50 people on the event. We had a few people that were prospects, mostly were existing clients. And I'll say we did we did a little bit more to set it up. So we sent out an invitation. We used the normal format, the approved format. We asked people to RSVP if they could. And if they RSVP'd, we sent them out a list of ingredients if they wanted to try and cook along, and the actual recipes that were going to be covered.
So, and then you targeted some of your best clients. You had some prospects. Were these prospects that you targeted, or were these friends of people that you invited, or both?
A little bit of both. There were a couple people that we, in particular, targeted. We also encouraged our clients to forward it out to anyone that they thought would enjoy it. You know, here we had capacity to do 150 logins. The more, the merrier.
Okay. So they had the ingredients. If they responded in a timely enough manner, they had the recipe. Okay. To walk me through how the chef took everybody through this experience that night then.
Well, and I'll say that we did a couple other things just really quickly to try and make it successful. One is we did a calling campaign to make sure all of our best clients were aware of it, because they've been getting lots of stuff through email and so forth. So, we kind of divided up stuff on the team. John reached out to a lot of the clients, and then for people that did RSVP, like most of us, our better clients are a little bit older. They might not be super tech savvy. We had one of our younger advisors, Jay, reach out to everyone that RSVP'd either the day of or the day before, and make sure that they were able to use WebEx and get into it.
Mm. So you basically did a trial run with people to make sure that they knew how to use the technology to log on and view what was going on and listening.
Yeah, and that was kind of an after effect or benefit. Now we have a bunch of people that might not normally be comfortable with using that now that love it, because they've been able to use it. So that worked out really well. As far as walking through with the chef, kind of my direction or our direction to him was, let's do something that people could actually do, meaning, let's do stuff that would be readily available in these times, either out of your pantry or your freezer or maybe the local store down the street. And we kind of promoted it as that, and what would be his twists on that, what different things might he do. So literally, he went down the street a mile and a half from our house to the grocery store and bought everything that we used for it. So it's something that anyone could do in the group.
So keep it simple. He has his own little flares he could do as a chef to kind of spice up the dish, so to speak.
Yeah, and we also did, we did a dry run the night before, and I'd highly recommend that if you're going to do something like this. So, and it was also a nice opportunity for my family and I to get dinner twice prepared by a chef. So that was kind of awesome. It was the same meal twice, but that was okay.
Right.
So we did a dry run. Yeah, we did a dry run with a couple clients and our prospects. There were just 5. And we did that to elicit feedback on the sound quality, the video quality. We made a couple tweaks as a result of what we learned doing that. So we did it twice. I don't think now that we got it down, working with Chef Vince, I don't think we would need to do another dry run. But first time, I would definitely do that.
Well, I like that idea anyway. I think that gets a further buy-in from that audience that you brought in to help you. They feel like they're being a part of it. They feel like they're helping you create it. So I like that idea, not just because I think you need to have a dry run for your purposes, but what that does for some of the participants. Yeah,
absolutely. And then we really did it as kind of a conversation between me and Vince. So it was him preparing it. Because we had gone through this before, I kind of knew what he was going to do. So I was basically asking the dumb questions. Why do you do this? Or how do you make sure when you're cooking in a pan that the temperature is right? What type of oils do you use? Stuff like that. We actually started out, he's certified to train other chefs on cleanliness. So he actually has a certification in there. So the first couple of minutes was how do they treat cleanliness in the kitchen, and especially important in these times, but in any time. And then we just walked through cooking. It was just, kind of me and him, me running the iPhone that's doing video, so I was able to move around a little bit and zoom in on different pieces when he's showing, gee, we're searing it on one side, then we're going to throw it in the oven, and some of the vegetables and some of the preparation. He did a béarnaise sauce as he was doing everything, which was pretty impressive. I'm not sure if I would tackle that myself, but he pulled it off with ease. And he actually used all of our cooking utensils. He didn't, other than a couple of knives, he didn't bring anything special. It was just him cooking in our kitchen and having a dialogue back and forth, and a little bit of kidding and stuff like that. And then because my wife was kind of paying attention to the text stuff coming in, she would point out if we had a question or stuff like that. And I could tell you it was neat because we had people from all over the country on it. So we'd have people that wouldn't be able to normally do this here in the Twin Cities. So it was kind of fun to do it that way.
Yeah, I don't know if you know this, but your wife has submitted the video to the Food Network as an audition for you to become the next host. So experience, you're getting texts, you're getting questions, and getting feedback live, and that was being communicated to you and the chef.
Yeah.
And then what was the follow-up like? In other words, how did you capture the prospects that were on there and the clients?
Right. So, again, we had a pretty good understanding of who was on there. We did have we had a handful of people that called in and didn't watch the video portion of it. So we tried to make it, again, entertaining. Our follow-up was pretty simple. A couple of things. One was immediately afterwards, I heard from probably about 2/3 of the people just sending me emails thanking us. It was so much fun. They're going to try this or try that. We did also promote at the beginning and the end that we're going to do a little contest, and anyone that in the next week or so that made a meal kind of inspired by what was talked about, to take a picture, share it with us, put it on social media and tag us. And anyone that did that would be entered in a drawing for a cooking gift basket. And then so we're trying to get a little bit more legs out of it. And then the last thing is we talked about temperature quite a bit and different. As you're cooking, that's one of the key things is temperature. So immediately afterwards, just kind of looking at the thermometer that he uses in his professional life, looked it up on Amazon. It was like $18. So I ordered a bunch of those. We got them. We wrapped them in ribbon inspired by you guys. We have our logo on some nice blue ribbon, and we mailed them out and wrote out personal notes to every single person that attended it, asking for introductions to other people, along with some business cards. And, since then I've gotten calls from people that have received, basically everyone's receiving the thermometers right now. Amazon isn't, Prime is a little bit different when it's a non-essential item, but we got those all out within a few days, and there's a picture of the thermometer wrapped up and some cards and our note that went out. And, as a result of it, one of the long-term clients that was part of this, and I'll say we've been doing a lot of WebExes. We've been partnering with our wholesalers, and every Thursday we do a different WebEx from a different fund company. But one of the person that attended that was kind of a C or D client. She decided that as a result of this and some of the other communication we've been doing, she has stuff at 5 other companies, and she decided to consolidate it all with us. So we had a meeting last Thursday. We're in the process of bringing over, when I start adding all the different things up, at the end of the day, it'll bring her up to about $1 million client. So it was well worth it just for that. And again, we're getting more legs out of it just because of the thermometer and some of the other pieces.
Well, I love what you did there. It's a great wraparound when you ask people to post something on social media and tag you, that immediately connects you to that event, immediately connects you to that person. Like you said, it gives you more legs, it gives you more exposure. Love the gift idea as another way, and the handwritten personal notes. That's just a really high-touch, high-class thing you did there, Mike. So, Drew, what do you have any observations? Drew's been nodding over here going, oh yeah, oh yeah.
It looks like a great event. Obviously, you got really good feedback. People gave it to you almost immediately, it sounds like. You're leveraging the technology. How long have you been using the texting capabilities off the CRM software?
We've been using it we signed up for probably about a month ago. We did kind of very little with it, I'd say. You know, we had done as we'd have a meeting, we would ask people. And actually, as a result of one of these calls, I decided my wife works part-time for me, and I decided that she was going to be in charge of it. So she's been going wild with it. We have almost everyone signed up for texting, and she's texting with about, once a week she'll send out something. So just last Thursday and Friday going into Easter, she sent out a nice text. Everyone thought it was from me. Probably got a good 20 or 30 responses. Literally, I didn't need to take any action out of it, but we're getting more and more people signed up through that program. And I guess by doing stuff like this that's kind of fun, it made some people that might not sign up for texting, might not sign up for WebEx. Now all of a sudden, I had some meetings right after it, and the week after it, saying this is great. It's fantastic. We don't have to get in a car and drive over there. So it's really, I think it will continue to benefit us, and that was a great way to encourage people to embrace us on some of the technology.
Yeah, great job.
Great, Mike. And listen, for those of you who have a lot of questions, you can't really see this, but I'll show you. We put together with Mike's help. Thank you so much, Mike. You guys can see this. Whoops. I'll turn around. We've got a lot of what Mike did as far as best practices and tips on how to put this together. So, Mike, I appreciate you working with Ben and Katie to get this done. We'll include that in the follow-up on the replay, so it'll be a document attached to there. So, Mike, thanks again for leading the way and doing something that I think a lot of people want to do, and you've jumped into it. I guess my one final question here is, what's next? What's the next fun virtual event?
Yeah, we're working on a cocktail class right now, and we're just kind of looking for different ideas that would be a little bit fun. We've done real cocktail classes. We're just trying to, the person that usually does it is swamped right now because he runs a education charity, so he's got different things going on. So, but there's a lot of people that are out of work that would love to help out on stuff like this, especially right now because of stay in place. So. I was right before I got on the call, I just connected with a sommelier that I know. So that might be the next one that we do. Again, it's, trying to do fun stuff because everyone's getting so much other things out there. And also throw out, if you guys are doing the follow-up email that you do, please, if you want to put my email on there, if anyone has questions or stuff like that, feel free to reach out to me.
That's very gracious. Well, Mike, we're going to move on to the next thing. Great job
Thanks.
for being innovative here and getting this going. Keep us posted on, I can host something bourbon for you. It's real simple. I just, need a nice deep glass and some brown water. And
Absolutely.
It's pretty easy. So, thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
That's good stuff.
Very, very good. Very good.
All right. So, John Randall.
All right, we got a fun segment here with a very special guest here. So I'll give a quick backstory. Travis and I met Sean Kelly Quinn a little over 2 years ago. We were out in Phoenix, Arizona for the leadership conference. We went Travis and I stayed with our friend and mentor, Dr. Zach Gerbarg, who many of you know. And between hanging at his house and going to the conference, we went and met with Sean. And I was really inspired about the work that he does with professional athletes. He really wowed me with some things, and I really followed up and dug deep into this. I think there's tremendous parallels to business, and he's already working in there. He works with some many professional athletes, works with some entrepreneurs, some executives. So really cool stuff here. So Sean, thanks for being on, man. Welcome to the webinar.
Hey, thanks, John. Travis, great to be on, and appreciate you guys inviting me.
Yeah, so
glad to have you.
These are really unique times here, Sean, and from a either a mental conditioning, a performance standpoint, whether it's an athlete or a franchise owner or financial advisor, what's some of the best ways just to get through these uncertain times?
Yeah, I think right now there's so much uncertainty. There's a lot of people don't know what's happening, what's going to happen next week, what's going to happen next month. I know I'm still connecting with my athletes, talking about, let's stay fresh. I got baseball players that, are saying maybe end of May, maybe June, maybe July, maybe no season. But, they're keeping themselves fresh. They're working out. They're doing what they can do at home right now. I have golfers that are getting ready for the season started, then stopped. So, they're having to stay fresh, but obviously adhere to the rules by each state with the shelter at home in most states and, trying not to expose themselves to this virus. The thing that we talk about a lot, and that's really relevant right now, especially, is controlling what we can control. I think a lot of times in these times of uncertainty, we have a lot of new things coming our way. And what happens is that, we have a box of things we can control, but we're really thinking about these things that we can't control. What's happening next week? My business is changing. My livelihood, my income is changing because clients are canceling. I have speaking engagements that are canceling. These things are out of our control. But what can we do instead to stay relevant? And, Mike, I enjoyed hearing what you were doing there with kind of the cooking classes. I think it's important to brainstorm, think of ideas. How do you stay engaged with your clients so that you're still able to connect, but also in different ways? John and I have talked about this in the past, but, creating balance is important because we still want to have a home life too and have some normalcy there. So, I really liked hearing about that cooking class because I think that that's something to still engage the family, engage ourselves, but engage with our clients and give us a sense of normalcy as opposed to dwelling on this negative, this virus where we can't go out and do the things that we normally like to do.
Nice. And I think this whole concept of things that are out of our control, there's a lot of that right now. We can't control what the stock market's going to do. We can't control, when we can get back to life, if it ever gets back to whatever normal used to be. So how can we avoid getting caught up in those things that we can't control, Sean?
Yeah, I think it's really looking at it and saying, in these certain moments, I can certainly, get into a negative rut where I can start dwelling on the negatives. Hey, the market's down. Hey, the market's up. Or, hey, I listened to the news all day today and I heard all this bad news. And what happens is that if we don't filter that out, it starts influencing our lives, influencing what we do. And then we start having a negative outlook on everything that we're trying to accomplish. And I'm not trying to say that, a lot of the psychology speak is, oh, be positive, be fine. And I don't really adhere to that either. I think there's a false positive if we're overly positive and we truly don't believe it. In my mind, I believe there's this middle ground. So it's not being negative because negativity can breed negativity. If I'm around negative people, ultimately I start seeing all the negative things, but being overly positive doesn't work either. And so the middle ground is this ground called neutral. What's neutral thinking? What's the neutral thought? And if you look at the best athletes in the world, the best elite people, performers, tier one military operators, there's this concept called what's important now. And it's really thinking about what I can control in this certain moment, as opposed to going to the negative because of the uncertainty, my life is changing, or going positive, saying it's going to be okay, but not preparing and creating a game plan to truly believe that.
So I want to point out that acronym that Sean just dropped, and everyone should write this down, WIN. Take us through that once more, Sean, around what's important now.
Yeah, it sounds simple, and if we can start if we can start, really kind of thinking about what we can control, right? What's important right now in this moment with an athlete. If we start talking to a baseball player, it's not worrying about the first two at bats. It's worried about this third at bat. A golfer, I'm not worried about the 3-putt bogey on the second hole. I'm worried about the tee shot on the third hole. In business, I can't control what happened yesterday, what happened last week. Now I can learn from it, but I can't control that something negative happened. And so I can't dwell on that. And so to stay in the present, this acronym, what's important now, win, is something that is a simple concept, but it's a simple reminder. All my clients will put it on their hats. They'll put it on their wrist guards. They'll put it on things that they can constantly see it. You can do it in the morning when you wake up. You can put it on your mirror, but just remind yourself what's important right now, as opposed to, going to these places that we can't control and kind of developing this negative spiral of anxiety, uncertainty, and not creating that change that we need to have.
I mean, she's gone for good for a long while.
Yeah, great insights there. That negativity, I think it's easy to creep in, especially in these unusual times and unprecedented times that we have now. It's on the media, which we've talked about in these webinars before, and finding ways to get away from that, to let go of it. I think that win analogy, what's important now, really, really works there. And, Sean, this kind of ties into stress. All these outside influences create pressure on human beings. We've talked about there's a middle ground where there's sort of an optimal amount of stress or anxiety where we're at our best, where too little, we'd be comatose, we wouldn't have enough to do anything. Too much is debilitating. So take us through stress, distress. What's ideal in that zone?
Yeah, certainly. There's something called eustress, and that's what kind of motivates us. It's EU stress. And what it does, it motivates us, it drives us. It's the thing that gets us up in the morning and gets our heart flowing, pumping, knowing, hey, I got a couple meetings, I'm going to talk to a couple clients, and gets us kind of, prepared for the day. Now there's a distress, and the distress is what I think a lot of us are starting to feel right now. And that's the stuff where it's overwhelming. It's anxiety producing because I don't have that plan in place. And all of a sudden I feel like, kind of the slippery slope with, hey, what's going to happen next week? What's going to happen to my income? What's going to happen to my family? How am I going to be able to control these things when, my environment is ever so changing? And we want to get away from that and get away from kind of overwhelming ourselves and kind of pinpointing it and creating more of a plan. And that plan may be a simple step-by-step. Okay, how do I attack each issue I may see arising? If it is, I'm not able to meet with my clients in person. Okay, well, what can I do? I can have a WebEx, consultation. I can, meet with them by the phone. I can do things to adapt as opposed to, stay in this rut of negativity, but also of this anxiety producing uncertainty. On top of that, it's making sure that I'm learning from best case, examples. What's around in my environment that I'm seeing that is actually working. You're seeing a lot of people kind of adapt and start to use these Zoom meetings, WebExes, these things to kind of not only work with their clients, but to work with their teams. And looking at that, 5 months ago, no one really even knew what Zoom was, but now it's the buzzword because it's relevant. So how do we incorporate that into what we do so that we're, staying at least with the times and potentially getting ourselves ahead of the times, so that we're staying on top of our game, but also doing everything we can do to decrease that stress, decrease that uncertainty, decrease that anxiety.
Sean, let's talk about some of those techniques. One of the things that really intrigued me when me and Travis were out visiting you a couple of years ago, you showed us some really cool videos around the power of breathing and how that's such a interesting sort of control center for the human body. So what can the advisor do in the call? What can they do if they're feeling, higher levels of stress? What can they do to bring it down to that optimal zone?
Well, as you see it a lot in sport, especially, and I say sports kind of a metaphor for life because you get to see people on all levels. You get to see them when they succeed. You get to see them when they fail, and you get to see them in all kinds of different moments. How they handle success, how they handle that failure, but on top of that, how do they handle the moment? And you'll see a lot of athletes in certain moments where maybe it's going to the free throw line. They'll take that deep cleansing breath, or maybe it's in between pitches as a hitter. They're going to step out the box and take that clearing breath to slow their, and what it does is it slows your heart rate down. It slows your heart rate down and gives you some clarity. And in giving you that clarity, what happens is those extra thoughts, those extra emotions that may be starting to creep in now kind of decrease. It slows us down to a point where, we're now able to kind of recontrol that moment, but also kind of have that clarity to formulate a plan, which direction we're going to go next. So as we're all breathing right now. There's more of a diaphragmatic deep breathing that we can all do that can kind of slow us down in the moment, slow our heart rate down, but also slow our thoughts, and to get that clarity that we need when, we feel like we're getting a little bit too high, or, the pressure's getting to us a little bit too much.
Yeah, it's great techniques. And one thing Sean and I talk a lot about is building awareness around these things. How can you sense if you're getting pulled negative, if you're overly confident or overly positive, if you don't have enough of a fire lit, if you've got too much stress, too much internal anxiety that's slowing you down or debilitating you. So tell us about that, Sean. How can we develop awareness to know when we're kind of out of our ideal zone?
Yeah, I think it's recognizing when we're in these optimal levels, what we're doing correctly. We're all kind of experts in our own bodies, in our own thought patterns, but we're also can be very self-critical and self-analytical. So it's not, over analyzing ourselves, but, how are we evaluating each week? What are we looking at to say, hey, these are some things that I did well. These are some things that, could have been better, but here's what I learned. Rather than focusing on the outcomes, focusing on things that, we can't control, and letting those outcomes shape our future in a way that now we're negative because we lost. But if we can learn something from these outcomes, now we can adapt and we can change. And so, in these certain moments of uncertainty, it's being aware of, hey, this is what I'm really good at. I'm really good at connecting with people. I'm really good at, keeping my relevance because, although I'm not able to be there in person, I can be there by phone. I can be there by computer, by WebEx, these certain technological advances that we have. And so I can still keep my same relevance as opposed to, again, dwelling on what I don't have, dwelling on the changes, the routines that I'm having to recreate because my old ones aren't valid. And, as kind of Mike was talking about earlier with kind of that cooking class, how am I creating balance? How am I creating it so when I go home at night or when I'm still at home, I have a work balance, but I have a life balance where I can get back to, just enjoying my time with my family rather than, having myself be consumed by negativity, be consumed by, overconsumption of the news, or watching a movie that, can now create fear. On Netflix, one of the, I think it's Contagion, or, one of these pandemic movies is like one of the top 10 movies that's being watched on Netflix. And if you look at that, is that helping or hurting matters? Is that helping or hurting your emotions, and your thoughts towards this whole thing? Or, what am I listening to on the radio? Is it music that's inspiring me, keeping me uplifted? Or is it stuff that's bringing me down and still kind of keeping me in this negative rut? So understanding, being self-aware of these things can certainly help us, not just in creating this game plan, but regulate what's happening internally, what's going on with our internal dialogue, but also our internal emotions.
Yeah, and I think even to take that to the next level, one of the things Sean showed me was about Kobe Bryant, actually before his unfortunate passing, how he had this persona for the court that he called assassin mode. And when he needed to go to the highest level to just annihilate other teams and be one of the greatest scorers in the history of basketball, that was kind of his persona. That was his ideal state. And I think it's interesting. You can kind of manage all these things better if you know what you want your ideal state to be when you are at your best, and repeating that over and over is really big. And there's all kinds of other helpers too, Sean, you've talked about, like music, maybe having a playlist that helps you get into that zone, or the kind of things that either, pumps you up or just gets you in the ideal state, whether it's classical music or some kind of music gets you fired up. So how can we surround ourselves with all these things to be in our optimal zone?
Yeah, no, it's an interesting concept, and Kobe had, early on, and obviously, he was one of the greatest players to do it, as far as just having that cutthroat ability to take over games and not worry about things. But he had to develop a mentality for himself so that, he was getting bogged down by a lot of things and that were happening in his personal life, that he made some poor decisions. And, he was kind of, named as being this heir apparent to Michael Jordan. So it's a lot of, to kind of withhold on his shoulders. But, he had to create it because he was overwhelming himself so much that he was consuming himself to a point where he was taking it home with him. He was taking his home life to the court and his court life to his house. And it kept this negative spiral. So we had to separate the two. Now, when you become self-aware and you can separate the two, what happens is that you can kind of, create these different barricades where it's like, I'm not going to bring this to my family and I'm not going to bring my family to my work. And it helps kind of normalize that. But, John, to your point, yes, there's certain things that can, as far as music, there's certain songs that can get us pumped up. We can sing along, we can hear it, we can feel our heart rate kind of getting a little bit jacked. I have a couple baseball pitchers, for instance. One's a closer, and for him, his playlist is a lot of kind of hard rock, something to get his heart rate jacked, because that's where he lives. And in those moments, he performs optimally. Now, I also have pitchers who want to go out there, be cerebral, slow themselves down. So they may be listening to something that's a little bit more easygoing, something that's relaxing, so that they're getting themselves in the right mindset to go out there and pitch 6 innings, 7 innings, 8 innings, whatever that may be, so that they can perform at their highest level, but keep that stamina so that their heart rate's not overly pumping. So I would say, let's be aware of what we listen to. Let's be aware of creating 5 songs that may pump me up when I feel sluggish, or 5 songs that may be able to slow me down when I feel like, hey, I'm redlining right now. I'm going too fast. I need to slow this down. Here's what's going to help me do that. Or what's something I can go at home and watch with the family and relax and just unwind and check out, decompress. Or, what's something I need to be watching and keep myself relevant, because this is relevant to what my job is. I have to watch, the financial news or this, and this, so that I'm staying on top of what I need to stay on top of. So, creating that game plan for yourself is important. And so making sure that you're understanding that there's different ways to adapt to how you're feeling, but I have that plan in place. And so when I need to, I can go to those tools in my toolkit.
I love it. I mean, easy things that anyone can implement here. It's big. Now, all human beings have internal dialogue, that little voice in our head. We talk to ourselves. How does the internal dialogue play into all this?
Yeah, we all have it, as we're thinking right now, am I talking to myself as I'm talking to myself? And I'm sorry, I got a bee flying around. But, thinking about that, thinking about my internal dialogue, studies show that about 80% of our thoughts from a subconscious to conscious level are negative. And that might be, me driving a car down the street and driving and seeing a stop sign. I'm telling myself, okay, slow down, right? Or if I'm walking up to a door and I see the door shut, it's like, okay, slow down, open that door. Now, what that is that's a negative thought. That doesn't quite hinder our performance, but it stops us doing from what we're trying to do. Now, the ones that I'm talking about that are bad are the ones that can hinder us, the doubt, the overcoming anxiety, the things that saying, I don't want to do this because I'm fearful. And when we have times of uncertainty, those thoughts start taking over a little bit. And so especially right now, we're having these thoughts take over where it's uncertainty. I don't know what I'm going to do next week. The month after, I'm having these cancellations. I'm having things happen. But how do I limit that voice, limit that internal dialogue from going negative and not going to the positive? Hey, I'm going to be fine. No big deal. And not create the plan in place, to that neutral ground again, where it is that what's important right now. Hey, I got guys that got up in spring training, 2 weeks into it, they're starting to peak, getting ready for the baseball season. They cancel it. So now they go home with their families and we talk about what's important now. Well, I have a home gym. I have a place I can hit. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make the most of my time at home. I'm going to enjoy the time with my family. I'm going to work out. I'm going to also go hit. I'm going to, do some fielding drills. I'm going to make it so I can still stay on top of my game. How's a golfer doing it? A golfer's, finds a way that they can go practice, keeping themselves fresh so that when the season starts, they're ready to go. Now, we've talked about this also in the business world, right? Even though I'm physically not able to be in certain places, I can create things like this, a WebEx, webinar, jump on the phone, do things that I can do to keep myself relevant, as opposed to dwelling on the fact that I can't do the same things that I used to do because of something that I can't control.
Nice. And gosh, a lot of this ties into, because it was weeks ago now, we did have Dr. Zach Gerbarg on one of these that it framed a lot of this around mindfulness, which is a really important tool to maintain energy, performance, manage stress. It's he really defined it as unbiased alertness to what's going on now, and he even took us through some breathing exercises. So definitely go back and watch those webinars. I think the way Sean's framing it may make some sense here. On this last point, Travis and I are working with all of you on the call. A lot of times we help you get out of your own way. We all get in our own ways sometimes. So tell us about that, Sean. How are some ways we can get out of our own way and just help ourselves improve and be at our best?
Yeah, I think, there's a great line and there's a great book that good's the enemy of great. I think once we stop, once we think we're good, we stop striving to be great. So how do we keep pushing that envelope, keep, saying that, there is no ceiling to where I'm at? How do I keep trying to reinvent myself, adapt to the times, adapt to the moment, so that, I am, changing with time? And I think that, a lot of times we can become complacent in this world when, things are working, we're doing things correctly, and it's rocking and rolling, as opposed to figuring out ways to adapt. I think that's one of the there's no blessings in the situation that we're living in, true ones. I mean, there's a lot of people that are sick, a lot of people are dying. It's an unfortunate event, but the little things that we can take away from this is look how much we've been able to adapt and still stay relevant. Look how much we've been able to do things differently, but still, provide a service to people, or to do things that we would normally not do because we were, stuck in a way of doing things that we never entertained this. And so I think that's what, we're seeing now, is seeing that, we can adapt, we can think outside the box, we can do certain little things that can, create relevance to our, clients, to the people that, that help us pay our bills, or, the people that are out there, and our loved ones, our family. How are we adapting? Look, Instacart, things like that, where, instead of going to the grocery store, I'm getting groceries online. I'm getting them delivered to my house. A DoorDash, a Grubhub, getting things to go, eating, family meals at home, things like that. So we can entertain more conversation. There's things that we're doing now that we should really, take a look at and go, here's some things that I want to maintain and keep doing, when we get past this situation, past this event, so that, because it is valuable, and, it works.
Really awesome stuff here, Sean. Thanks so much for being on. I always love seeing the beautiful redwood trees from California in the background. It's relaxing, brings strength, but really, really insightful stuff. I recommend people go back and rewatch this webinar. There's some really good gems there we can all implement one step at a time. So thanks,
John,
buddy. Great having you on.
John, I appreciate it. And kind of one last final thing is just saying that, I try and do that once a day, is just go out in the backyard, kind of just enjoy the air. I mean, we're limited on what we can do here and going out and doing things, but let's enjoy the things that we have, whether it's a nice backyard, it's 80 degrees here right now, great weather. Let's figure out ways that we can kind of enjoy that stuff, as opposed to dwelling on this negative situation that we can very easily do if we allow ourselves to.
Love it. Fantastic.
Thank you, Sean. Great having you today. Appreciate
Thanks,
what
guys.
you offered us today. Ryland, my son, says hello. He wants to get connected with you soon. So
Tell him I said hello. And thanks, Travis. I appreciate it.
you're welcome.
Thanks, Sean.
All right, Mr. Watson, what is going on as it relates to, you want to talk about investments or marketing first?
Well, it all goes together. Let's talk about marketing.
Talk about marketing. I like that.
Yeah. So marketing-wise, we've got 3 different initiatives going on this week. One is for our medical people, doctors and nurses. We have branded kind of lanyards that They can kind of move in and out with Superman or Wonder Woman little decals, but they've got our Lion Wealth Management logos on them. We put a nice little note in them thanking them for their service, being frontline workers during this time that we're in and delivering those to their offices. We also have some travel books that we're going to send out to our top clients that are outside of the Owensboro area that we can't hand deliver. It's a good National Geographic series. It's trips of a lifetime, drives of a lifetime. And then we did our coffee deliveries this week, which, Ben's got some of that information. But there's a local stave coffee place, which I guess they use the staves from the bourbon barrels to help ground down this coffee.
Love it.
And I'm not a coffee drinker. I get my caffeine out of a can. Diet Coke. But essentially, it smells great. We had those delivered. My daughter delivered most of them. We had our marketing guy deliver the rest. I took some out myself, got a bottle of bourbon in return. But that was a home run, kind of like Mike was saying, probably about 2/3 of the people that received them, they emailed or called the office thanking us. It was a very big kind of wow moment, and people already started drinking it almost immediately, and they really liked it. And it's, a couple things. One, it helps a local business. These are two young guys. I've worked with their family for years, know all 3 generations of their family. They started their business about 4 weeks ago. So,
good timing.
Yeah, they followed Sean's advice. They didn't listen to any of the outside interference. And they said, now's the time. If you're going to be in business, might as well jump in. And it's worked out very, very well. Very reasonable prices. We put it in our own Lion Wealth Management kind of gift bag and delivered those. And we're actually just ordered another 25 boxes of coffee. So that's been a very, 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 very good thing to do. We've got feedback from our food gifts from 2 weeks ago. So we have a guy who's going to transfer his money over from, I think Edward Knowns. I don't know.
Edward Knowns?
Yeah, Edward Knowns. Very good feedback. And I would say this, the consistency of doing the conference calls is really paying off. So people that are on there, we've had, several referrals. Now the business is getting in. The business is being processed faster than ever. I feel like I sound like the president. Travis is fabulous. This Ameriprise technology.
Be careful there.
It's fabulous.
Be careful there, Mr. Watson.
The business is being processed very, very quickly. And we've got really some annuity ACATs, probably the fastest we ever received them, literally within a day and a half. Brian's opened up.
Is that just real quick? Is that because you feel like the team locally and at Ameriprise are working better or more in sync or faster? What do you think's driving that?
I would say probably it's all together. I mean, I think things are getting done in a very, very timely manner. I think probably a lot of the technology resources that we had available we didn't use like we needed to, and so that's helped. And it probably, when we use the technology that's available to us the way it should be used, it probably streamlines into the home office process a little bit faster. So those have been some big wins, and we've got more stuff in store for next week. We're going to repeat the coffee now with kind of tier 2 people. So we have that information if you guys want to see what that looks like, and the contact information for them. Ben has that.
Well, Ben, why don't you just go ahead and put that in the follow-up then?
Yeah, it's on the next slide, Travis. Hit the next slide. It's on there. Yeah.
Well, there it is.
Yeah. Stave Coffee Company. So, this is from Guatemala. So I guess you can enjoy this with a nice cigar if you're into that.
That's right.
With your coffee. That's been a very, very good thing to do from a marketing standpoint, and we'll keep kind of pounding the rock as much as we need to on the marketing because it is paying off. And I think everyone's functioning at a really good high level of activity and asking for referrals as well. That never hurts.
Well, and I think let's pick up on what Sean was saying. you know, I think one of the things that's been helpful here is that he was talking about that neutral ground, and also not make sure that if you're positive, make sure you have a game plan behind it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're doing every week. I mean, every week we're sitting down, we're reviewing what we did. We're looking at this week. We've already planned that a couple weeks ago. We're looking out the following weeks. We're really building these timelines to figure out, at least from a marketing and a touch perspective, among many other things, but just on this marketing and touch, we feel really good because we continue to execute on things because we have a plan.
Yes.
And I think that builds confidence in of itself and our ability to execute on it. And it certainly helps when we get results via feedback, via, you know, the prospect actually calling in and now want to do business.
And it's good. One, we share the feedback. So, and a lot of team members receive the feedback. So, you know, our phone system has gone automated, so we never know who's going to answer the phone. And a lot of clients, they're mindful of your time, say, hey, I know we're busy. We just want to say thank you for this. This is great. So everybody's hearing the feedback, which I think that helps to keep that, as Sean said, that neutral zone of being, you know, what I say, ready to kind of take on what's next, staying in the zone, being comfortable, not being pessimistic, but I agree, not being overly optimistic. And that's one of the things, I think the feedback that I've gotten has been on the calls, we've been very consistent with our messaging. Kind of like what Sean was saying. We're telling people, look, you probably need to turn off the nightly news because all you're going to get is the negative. But realize we're going to get more bad information, more bad news will probably come out before this thing turns around, and we just need to, you know, prepare ourselves for that. We can do it. And let clients be consistent with that every other day when we're doing the mass communication. And that bleeds over to the individual calls. One thing that's very obvious too, and I think most people will pick up on this, is clients are more respectful of your time, and we get right to the point. We're able to provide them great value. Getting more and more calls about the CPP and all the tax law changes. We've made that part of our kind of seminar spiel on the conference calls as well. And that's an area where people do have legitimate questions. There's a lot of misinformation out there. And we try to get them into their neutral point, because that's the best decision-making a client can make, is when they're at their kind of, you know, good centered grounded point.
Yeah. Well, I think on the negativity too, I remember a quote Nito shared with us years ago. And he says that garbage in, garbage out, that's actually not true. Garbage goes in, gets pregnant, has triplets, right? And it can stay in there.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's really important that we do watch, what are we reading? What are we watching? What are we listening to? Well, how purposeful are we having, or how purposeful are we being in conversations about what are we talking about to uplift people? You know, I've had several people, many of you know this, when I call in, I usually don't talk to the advisor, I talk to someone on the front line, and they'll ask me how I'm doing. And of course, what do I always say? I'm bullish on life. And it's been interesting because during the wake of this, I've had some people actually be very vulnerable with me and say, really? I mean, it's kind of, you know, this is going on here, it's going on here, you're still bullish. And I've taken the time to go over and, hey, now you're really hearing something here.
Yeah.
But it still comes back down to, you know, what I found out is people are letting a lot of negativity in, and they're letting that control them. So I think tonight's message is a good message. Your message about staying consistent, playing that neutral zone, having a game plan that helps people focused, sharing the positive feedback, especially in this virtual world. It's very important because it's not like we're in an office and we all, you know, meet out in the lobby and say, hey, we've got a new client. It's just not that way. So passing that on, I think, is another great way to keep people, you know, moving forward.
Absolutely, absolutely. I close with this. You know, in this, a lot of people are worried, and we're respectful of that, and we state that up front. But I think, you know, really an important part of our job at this time for clients is to help them with their decision making, because typically there's a lot of money that can be made in these situations, but there's a lot of money that can be lost, that can be derailed, and you've got to kind of separate the two and help your clients do that. You know, this would be a really good time, I think, too, to have younger AFAs shadow more experienced advisors on calls so they can kind of see how they do that, being understudied, so to speak, and basically kind of really work through this. One of my favorite movies is Bull Durham. Sean's probably seen it a million times. The reason why they got Crash was to help the young pitcher
That's right.
control some of his emotions. So I think it's important, your staff's going to have these fears. You lead from the front, you model this, but let them see that everything's going to be okay. Put a good spin on everything, but don't be overly optimistic without a plan. And let them know, look, there's going to be bad things that happen. There's going to be a lot of bad news, but this will pass and we'll get through this. So that's been our message, and it's been wonderful.
Perfect. Thank you, Drew. As always, some great insights there. Do we have any questions from our D2 community? If you have questions and don't want to bring it up on here, feel free to shoot us an email, shoot us a text. We'll be certainly glad to take those questions. I'd also say to you, the same thing that we've been talking to clients about is if you're happy with the way we've been handling the situation, and you've got some advisor colleagues out there, maybe they don't have a coach, maybe they have a coach, but they're not hearing from them, they're not being proactive. Just want you to know, we'd love to help. A couple of weeks ago, we launched a campaign to actually hold some, free consultations with people, no strings attached, just pure coaching. So we just want you to know we're trying to do our part. So if you have some people you want us to talk to, please let us know. Another great quote here, just about fighting adversity from Mr. Albert Einstein: in the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. And I think that's where I've been really proud of the D2 community. We've been focusing on the opportunities. We haven't let the adversity go or the obstacles with that, but results follow focus. I mean, we're solving the problems, but we're really trying to focus and get everybody looking at the opportunities in all this so that we can manage through it now. But I really think the things that our advisors are doing right now, when we come out of this, the strength that we're going to have as an organization, the loyalty that we're going to create and really broaden and strengthen with our clients, I think it's just going to create some huge momentum going forward.
Absolutely.
So stay tuned next week. I don't have it completely planned yet, but I think we're going to have a good time next week.
Don't be overly optimistic.
Well, I know. I need to hold on, let me get neutral here. But I think we're going to have a pretty good guest or two, and I think we're actually going to have a little fun too, little break from maybe some of the topics. So you'll definitely want to stay tuned and look for our invite. Usually we get that out on late Monday afternoon or Tuesday morning. But we'll be back here next Wednesday, 5 o'clock Central, 6 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Mountain, 3 o'clock Pacific, right? Mm-hmm. So as always, it's great to be with our D2 community. We're honored to be on this journey with you. If you need anything at all, we're here for you. Good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.